When it comes to home renovation, not every generation sees their space in their home the same way. Some generations renovate out of necessity. Some generations renovate for personal expression. And other generations are just simply because it's part of their lifestyle. Hi everyone, before we continue with the discussion, let me welcome all of you to the Design SK Studio, where you can learn about design tutorials for better living.
Please subscribe, like and share. Thank you.
So in this video, we're going to explore how different generations, X, Y, and Z, approach home renovation. We will talk about how each generation approach their home renovation, from what they do for a living, to where they live, who they live with, and even how much of their income they're actually putting into these projects. Let's begin with Generation X, born roughly between 1965 and 1980. Most Generation X's are in their mid-40s to late 50s now. Many of Generation X are professionals, managers, engineers, medical workers, consultants, people who've spent years building their careers, mostly based on their education. Stability in life is the goal of the Generation X. Therefore, most of the Generation X often live in single-family house building, settled in a quiet and safe suburban areas, in larger homes with families of 3 or more. For Generation X, home renovation is less about trend and more about raising home's value rather than function. For Generation X, home renovations are more about raising the home value. So, when they are redoing kitchens, bathrooms, and sometimes adding home offices or extended living areas, are more for raising home's selling value in the future, rather than convenience, which is preferred by the young generations. The Generation X typically spend between 15 to 25% of their annual income on renovations, especially if they see it as long-term investment more than trending. And when the Generation X hires help, it's usually general contractors, plumbers, electricians, the professionals who can guarantee solid lasting work and can oversee the whole project's work. For Generation X, home renovation is a big project mostly only done one time in life and to enhance the home's value in the future. Therefore, the home renovations should be handled leaded and done professionally. DIY is not the big parts of the Generation X's home renovations. The Generation X's home renovation projects are more concentrated to the structure of the house as a whole, rather than small parts of the house interior. Most of the Generation X's projects are self-funded, with some drawing on savings or taking home equity loans. Remember, Generation X is the most saving-concerned generation among other generations. And do you know what are their most reasons for the Generation X's home renovations? Generation X are often doing home renovation if only they can raise their home's resale value when they move or sale the house. Although most home renovations will result in improving comfort, it is not the main reason for the Generation X renovate their homes. As they grow old, the Generation X would consider their home renovations as to adapt their homes for multi-generational living and lastly for aging process. Now let's look at the next younger generation, which is Generation Y, or is also often called as Millennials, born between 1981 and 1996. Generation Y are more diverse in life philosophy, lifestyle and location where they live. If the Generation X emphasize on stability in life, Millennials or the Generation Y are open to changes, grow and new ideas. The Millennials or the Generation Y start to see and follow the changes and growing in education, economy and income level. Some of the Generation Y or Millennials are city-based professionals in technology, design or dealing with social media marketing. Technology, design and social marketing are the fields which are new, growing fast and never thought by the previous Generation X. Some of the Generation Y or Millennials are suburban homeowners with young families. Growing, changes and struggling are part of their daily life. Stability in life is less and less expected by the Generation Y or Millennials. Therefore, the Generation Y or Millennials often renovate smaller homes or parts of them and lean into a lifestyle-first mindset. This is the time DIY is introduced and developed rapidly due to the limited renovation budget and rising living cost. Despite of limited renovation budget, most of the purpose of the Generation Y's home renovation is creating cozy spaces, open kitchens or baby rooms, spaces that reflect growing personality and the changes of daily needs. Generation Y is also called as Millennials, tend to spend around 10 to 18% of their income on renovations, which is smaller than 15 to 25% budget from the income spent by the previous Generation X. Because of the rapid growth, changes and less stability in lifestyle, Millennials, or the Generation Y, are cautious spenders, but they are design conscious. The Generation Y have more access to design, aesthetics, and sustainability than the previous Generation X. The Generation Y, or Millennials, have more access and skill, full in handling and using social media. For Millennials, or the Generation Y, raising the home's value in the future is not the main purpose of their home renovations. Millennials, or the Generation Y, often start with the kitchen or bathroom, then move to the living room, and then to outdoor areas like patios and balconies. So the next question is, why are the Millennials or the Generation Y renovating their homes? First, as you can see here, the parts of the home renovation, such as open-plan kitchen to dining and living area, is to adjust to the grow and the changes of their family's lifestyle, from core family-oriented to the extended family and more social lifestyle. Second, the outdoor areas renovation like patios, backyard and balconies are to reflect the changes lifestyle from family-oriented to broader family and community lifestyle. The third reason why the Millennials doing their home renovations is to make spaces for making contents, the new concept which is started by the generation of Millennials. And sometimes the Millennials renovate their homes to make remote working more functional or working from home more functional. Millennials are also more likely to hire interior designers and online-based professionals or use virtual design services. Crowdfunding, personal loans, or even credit cards play a role in how Millennials finance projects, with a balance between saving and borrowing. Now we come to the next generation. What can we say about Generation Z? The youngest homeowners born after 1997. Not all, but some of Generation Z are just stepping into home or mostly apartment ownership. Some of the Generation Z are single or newly partnered, often live in apartments, condos, or smaller urban homes, or even in their parents' home. A lot of the Generation Z work in creative or tech-related fields, such as freelancers, or maybe become digital marketers, since the Generation Z is the most tech-savvy generation among the other generations. Some of Generation Z are also interested to become website developers. Basically everything that is related to the technology, digital and artificial intelligence. Due to the fast communication using social media, some of the Generation Z have become interested in dance performers or movement artists. And these dance performers or movements artists are the most fast-growing and spreading trends activities among Generation Z lately. Not too many of the Generation Z have their own apartments or homes yet, but if they have their own living space, their renovations will mostly be non-permanent, due to that they are mostly rental apartments. The Generation X's living spaces renovations are often influenced by social media, TikTok, Pinterest, YouTube, or Facebook. For their apartments or living space renovation, this Generation Z would spend less overall, usually under 10% of income, but they do renovations more frequently. Generation Z are more often doing small changes like repainting, lighting upgrades, or custom shelving, the short-term and fast renovation, but repeating them quite often, due to the quick changing trends among them. Generation Z are big on DIY, but when the Generation Z hire, it's usually for design consulting, or trades they can't do themselves, like electrical or plumbing. The Generation Z's funding tends to come from savings or side gigs. And can you guess, what are the Generation Z's home renovation motivations? First, personalization. Generation Z are strong in creating personal presentation in social media. Second, either the Generation Z own or rent their apartments or living space. Small, quick change made to the parts of their apartments or living space are meant to make the place more comfortable and functional is their priority in home renovation. Some of the Generation Z are more concerned about how they represent themselves in social media more than how they live in a real life. Therefore, the most important motivation for the Generation Z's home renovation is creating a space where they can show online, maybe even monetize. Showing off and making content are part of the reasons for apartments or living space renovation for the Generation Z. So in conclusion, after discussing home renovations across generations, you'll notice this pattern. The Generation X renovates their homes more likely is for stability, raising the home's value in the future and long-term intergenerational homes functions. The Generation Y, or more often is called Millennials, renovate their homes more likely is to balance style with life stage changes needs. Growing and changing in lifestyle is the most part of the Millennials' consideration for their home renovations. And lastly but not the least, the Generation Z renovate their apartments or living spaces is more likely as a response to the always changing lifestyle trends. Active and following new changing trends, are the biggest part of the Generation Z's lifestyle, with the hope that the Generation Z's living space renovations will give them more flexibility and adaptability in responding to always changing lifestyle trends. So, as you can see, each generation is writing its own story in how they shape their homes. And maybe that's what makes home renovations so interesting, generations by generations. Each generation have been interested in home, apartment or living space renovations, but they have their own reasons and motivations which are different from each generations and timeframes. Now we can conclude that home renovation is not just about space. Home or living space renovations are not static. They change, grow, and modify according to time, generations, and changing motivations. Home renovation is about the life being lived inside it. People renovate their homes or living spaces because they want to live, being active and grow old in it. If you are interested and want the follow-up this home renovations discussions, please write home renovations in the comment section. We will continue discussing the home renovations motivation, goals, and other variables. So now you know. Remember that Design SK Studio channel is the place where you can learn about design tutorials for better living. Click your notification bell for the next educational videos. Till next time, thank you for watching.